Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. I am with you, Jasmine McTague, here live from Jersey City, New Jersey, watching the news headlines. Now, details at this time. Our first story. Andrew Cuomo made headlines in August during the waning days of his abbreviated term, when he granted clemency to 10 people, including 5 whose long prison sentences were commuted. The former governor calls his actions a step towards a more just New York. One of the foundational promises of New York is that of an equal justice and equal comparison for all under the law, he said. For criminal justice advocates, the gesture was remarkable, not as an act of benevolence, but because it was so out of character for Cuomo, who took office in January 2011 and resigned this past August amid a sexual harassment scandal. He hadn't commuted a single sentence during his first term. Now, in the post-Cuomo era, those advocates say there are reasons to hope for a more progressive approach to clemency petitions than what they witnessed in the last decade under Cuomo. Nationally, Americans are talking more openly about racial disparities in the justice system. And the state has a new governor in Kathy Hochul. Hochul's press secretary, Hazel Crampton Hayes, declined to elaborate on how the upstate Democrat plans to deal with the hundreds of requests from prisoners to have their lengthy sentences commuted. But Hochul is paying attention. We have very high hopes that she will start granting clemencies not only for holidays, but throughout the year, said Roscoff. During his first term, Cuomo received an average of 670 requests for clemency each year, according to the State Department of Corrections, and granted none. But in 2015, his position seemed to shift when he proposed that a nonprofit group and private law firms collaborate on clemency applications and submit far more appeals to the governor's office. Ted Hausman, supervising attorney of the Legal Aid Society Criminal Appeals Bureau, recalls the proposal as an exciting announcement of a new era in clemency, in which groups like Legal Aid were asked to pair with well-heeled private law firms in order to submit a far higher number of clemency applications to the state. With the governor's blessings, the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers was among them. The initiative convinced many in the legal community that Cuomo was embracing clemency in the same way President Obama had used his clemency power to free nearly 2,000 people. And now, for story 2. At least 6 people in the city of Atlanta are recovering from injuries after being shot Wednesday night. Atlanta police are investigating 3 shootings that left a total of 6 people injured. Officers were first called to the Fairbairn Road just before 9:30 p.m. in reference to a person shot in the arm. Police say the victim was alert, conscious, and breathing while being transported to the hospital. There is no word on there. At 10:40 p.m. on 9/11, dispatcher received a call that 2 people have been shot on Jonesboro Road and Lakewood Ave in the southeast Atlanta. When the officers arrived on the scene, they found 2 teenage males and an adult man suffering gunshot wounds. All 3 were taken to the hospital in stable conditions. Investigators learned that the trio was walking down the street when an unknown car pulled up alongside them and began shooting. There's no description of the vehicle or the suspects. Just 5 minutes later, at 10:45 p.m., 911 dispatchers received a call of 2 other people being shot in the 2000 block of Dolo Drive, less than 10 minutes away from the previous shooting. Investigators learned that at this location, two more juveniles were shot by someone in an unknown vehicle as they walked down the road. Both victims were taken to the hospital in stable conditions. Police say that despite these two shootings being similar and taking place at about the same time, it is too early in the investigation to say if they are related. And now for story 3. Health officials in Minnesota reported 3,805 new cases of COVID-19 on Thursday, along with 39 more deaths. The latest figures from the Minnesota Department of Health brings the total number of cases to 975,447, including 11,771 reinfections. Since March of 2020, 10,057 people have died of the virus. Roughly half of the victims lived in long-term care or assisted living facilities. The 7-day average positivity rates has been falling for the past few days and stands at 10.2% as of December 8th. However, any figure above 10% is considered high risk. The state is also seeing 68.3 new cases per 100,000 residents, which has fallen from the 86.1 reported earlier this month. Still, doctors are sounding the alarm as hospitals reach capacity and patients with serious illnesses are not able to get the care they need. Healthcare workers from around the state gather on Wednesday to share stories about what it's like to work in hospitals during the pandemic. If you get in a car accident today, if you have a heart attack, if you have a stroke today, we may not be able to help you, said Dr. Alice Mann of the Minnesota Academy of Family Physicians. As of Wednesday afternoon, there were 1,583 people in Minnesota's hospitals with COVID-19, 369 of whom were in the ICU. Staffed adults ICU beds availability is a single digit throughout the state, and central Minnesota does not have any staffed pediatrics beds available. Meanwhile, 8,369,482 vaccine doses have been administered in Minnesota, and 71.1% of the state's eligibility population has received at least one dose. Roughly 28% of children between the ages of 5 and 11 have gotten their first dose, and 62% of 12 to 15-year-olds have had one shot. State data shows that over 1.4 million booster doses have been administered. And now, for story 4. A day after visiting Edwardsville, Illinois, where an Amazon warehouse collapsed Friday from tornadoes that killed 6 people, Governor J.B. Pritzker ascended the podium of the Greater St. John's Bible Church in Austin. During his brief Sunday address, the governor acknowledged what he said are some dark and difficult times, before connecting the tragedy of deadly weather in Edwardsville to the concurrent pandemic of COVID-19 and gun violence disproportionately touching the West Side, and to the Republican Party's slow-rolling authoritarian coup. They want to take away that sacred right from you because they know you're not going to vote for them, the governor told the predominantly Black churchgoers, among them a longtime Congressman Danny K. Davis and Chicago Chris Talifaro, an active member of the Greater St. John's congregation. I've never seen it like this in America, Pritzker said. It is awful what they are trying to do. They say their goals is voter integrity, but you know that that's not what they mean. They want to keep black people away from the polls. They want to take away your right to vote because they know that you can make a positive change. I was also in the congregation on Sunday, seated near the back of the sanctuary and hoping to hear the governor offer a more robust condemnation of the conditions that made Amazon warehouse collapse much more tragic than it had to be. The truth is that the tornado is only partially to blame for the loss of those 6 people. Pritzker and enlightened billionaires and scion of Hyatt Hotel Empire omitted from his otherwise pitch-perfect oration as a state consoler-in-chief the name of another dark cloud hovering ominously over the country, that of workplace authoritism. And now, a short break from the Daily English News of Millennium News 24. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. Our story 5. A man accused of sneaking into a restaurant kitchen at Paris, Las Vegas, followed an employee into the bathroom and slashed him with a butter knife, leaving him with a permanent disfiguring scar, according to the Metro Police. Kirkland Oates, 55, of San Diego, remains at the Clark County Detention on counts of attempted murder, assault, and battery with the use of a deadly weapon and first-degree kidnapping resulting in a substantial bodily harm, among other charges, according to jail records. Oates made his initial appearance in Las Vegas Justice Court Wednesday. The victim alleged Oates followed him into the bathroom and pulled out a 12-inch knife before demanding the victim to get on his knees, according to arrest reports. The victim pleaded for the man to put the knife down, but Oates then swung the knife towards the victim's head, neck area. The victim lowered his head to protect his throat and was slashed with the knife just above his left eyebrow, police said. The victim was then able to grab Oates and subdue him to avoid further injury. The two began to struggle, which spilled out into the bathroom and into the hallway where the victim then called for help from other employees. Several employees rushed to help, and Oates was apprehended by security and held until police arrived. According to the arrest reports, the victim required several internal stitches and 9 external stitches, police said. A doctor at Sunrise Hospital and Medical Center, where the victim was taken, said the lacerations were so deep the victim required 2 layers of internal sutures. Video surveillance showed Oates following another Paris worker through employee entrance. As they walked through the security checkpoint, Oates raised his hand to acknowledge a security guard and pretended to scan a work badge as he walked through the entrance, and the guards let Oates through, police said. Oates followed the employee. He entered through an employee locker room until he proceeded to the kitchen of Mon Ami Gabi inside Paris. Employees noticed Oates but continued about their business, as many witnesses told the police they believed he was a new hire. Videos also showed Oates approaching the table where a chef had his cutlery laid out. As the chef stepped away, Oates grabbed the butcher knife and started slashing at the knife pack. Another employee asked Oates to leave, and Oates pointed the knife at him before turning away. And now for story 6. Last week, US Today ran a story on a companion video on our city's beloved Baywater Bakery. The realization of a shared dream. Chef Chaya Conrad opened the bakery in 2017 with her husband Alton Osborne, a native of the 7th Ward and a clothing designer who is familiar face in New Orleans art and music communities. Most of the things we do in life are unnoticed, Conrad wrote in her Instagram page, but every now and then someone sees you. We have never felt so seen. The video, which you have seen here, explores the warm, welcoming worlds Conrad and Osborne have created at the corner of Delphine and Independence Street. The bakery serves exceptional foods, both sweet and savory, while nourishing souls as a gallery featuring a rotating roster of local artists, informal community centers, live music venues, and an incubator for other chefs, and a place to celebrate world cultural traditions. We support all the things we love, said Conrad. This has become what we dreamed it would be. The bakery is the site of a voters registration drive, a place where neighborhood kids are rewarded with treats when they present a standout report card, a canine rewarded with a treat when they and canine customers are presented with tidbits made just for them. Whatever it takes to build a community, said Comrade. The pandemic evolved and we just kept evolving with it. People were so starved for community, for human contact. People found comfort in knowing that they could walk up to the bakery and commune with their neighbors from well-spaced outdoor tables over goods required from a walk-up window installed to accommodate COVID-19 restrictions. People could gather safely, noted Conrad. I think this really helped people's mental health. The goal was to create a safe place and keep people employed. The couple amassed the money needed to open the bakery by building a small cottage behind their Bywater home, then renting it out via Airbnb with Osborne, then working from home, serving as host. The money allowed Conrad to quit her corporate job and to focus on the dream. And now for story 7. The Columbus Division of Police searching for leads after a man was shot to death Tuesday night inside his car while parked next to a gas pump at the Southeast Columbus convenience store. With the amount of shots fired, someone had to have seen something, said Sergeant James Fakwa with the Columbus Division of Police. Timothy Walsh, 25, was discovered shot in his car around 9 p.m. in the parking lot of the United Dairy Farmers at 2660 North Bixby Road. That smile, always a smile, said Keisha, who was a longtime friend of Bosch. A beautiful smile. Investigators now reviewing surveillance videos from the gas station that they say shows Walsh parked at the gas pump when someone pulls up to the adjacent pump, gets out of the vehicle without provocation, open fires many times to Walsh's car, and then takes off. Police say this was not a random act of violence, and the suspects and the victim were not strangers. This suspect specifically went after this victim for a reason we don't know, says Sergeant Bakwa. It's concerning because of the amount of shots fired. Keisha's praying Walsh's killer is caught before more bloodshed fills the streets. They don't realize they will be caught and justice will be served, said Keisha. Anyone with information is asked to call the Columbus Police at 614-645-4730. And now, for story 8. A Kentucky man suffered a fatal heart attack while cleaning up storm debris at his daughter's home, authorities say, as the death toll edged upward from a recent tornado outbreak across multiple U.S. states. Services for Terry Martin Jane, 67, were scheduled Wednesday in his hometown of Russellville. Warren County Coroner Kevin Kirby said Jane suffered a heart attack Saturday and was taken to an emergency room where he was pronounced dead. Jane had been helping clean up debris at his daughter's home in Bowling Green, where officials said 14 others were killed by a tornado, including 11 people on one street. According to his obituary, Jane had operated a floral shop for 45 years. He is survived by his wife, a son and daughter, 3 grandchildren, and 4 siblings. He was, as he always was, helping someone else. Jane's brother, Bruce Russell Jane of Carmel, Indiana, wrote on Facebook, "Rest in peace, my little brother. We are in shock and can't believe you are gone." Jane's death pushed the total of storm-related casualties in 5 states to 89, including 75 in Kentucky. The National Weather Service continues to assess the scope of the storm. 8 states recorded at least 41 tornadoes during the severe weather that occurred on December 10th and 11th, including 16 in Tennessee and 8 in Kentucky. On Wednesday, the Weather Service said that the tornado that tracked across a wide swath of western Kentucky, from Fulton to Muhlenberg counties, was primarily classified as an EF4, with peak estimated winds of 190 miles per hour or 305 miles per hour. The most significant damage occurred in Arkansas, Tennessee, Missouri, and Kentucky, where President Joe Biden visited on Wednesday to comfort those who suffered grievous losses in the storm. The Kentucky Lestrick Richardson and his 2 daughters stopped by to pick up some necessities at the Mayfield High School, where the gymnasium was packed with food, clothes, toiletries, and other supplies. Richardson, 36, said He was scheduled to be at work Friday at the candle factory, where 8 of his coworkers were killed, but happened to be out sick. I feel all kinds of mixed emotions knowing that I could have been there, he said. I feel grateful, but then I feel like I could have done more if I had been there. The candle company announced this week that it will give each employee $1,000 to help with expenses and perform an independent review of its emergency protocols. The state is also investigating the factory's deaths. And now, our short break from the Daily English News of Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 daily local news up there. And now, at this time, our story 9. Rudmila Momant wipes away tears as she searches for clothes and household items to salvage from the ruins of her home that was shelled by Russia-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine. Her village of Nevelsky, northwest of the rebel-held city of Donetsk, is only about 13 kilometers from the line of contact between the separatists and the Ukrainian military, and it has been emptied of all but 5 people. Small armed fires frequently is heard in the daytime, giving way to the boom of night artillery and mortar shelling after dusk. With the bloody conflict now more than 7 years old, there are fears in the Ukraine and the West that a buildup of armed forces on Russia's side of the border could lead to an invasion or a resumption of full-scale hostilities. Rebels targeted Novisky with shelling twice in the last month, damaging or destroying 16 of the villages of 50 houses and rattling a handful of nervous residents who remain. The worse Ukraine-Russia relations are, the more we simple people are suffering, said a 60-year-old mama who has worked at the dairy farm all her life. Now with no home, who could have imagined that? Have been preparing for the winter, stocking up coal and firewood. After the shell hit her house, Mama fled to the nearby settlement where her son lives. But the anxiety has followed her there. We fear that the big war will start, and people are scared and packed up their bags, said Mama, who collected some blankets, warm clothes, and other items in the debris. The conflict in their eastern industrial heartland, known as the Donbass erupted in April 2014, weeks after Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula following the ouster of the Ukraine Moscow-friendly former president. Ukraine and the West have accused Russia of supporting the rebels with troops and weapons, but Moscow says that Russians who joined the fight were volunteer acting on their own. More than 14,000 people have been killed in fighting that has driven out more than 2 million people from their homes in the East. And now for Story 10. The remaining members of the U.S. missionary group who were kidnapped 2 months ago in Haiti have been freed. Haitian police and a group said Thursday. The spokesman for Haiti's national police, Gary Desoray, confirmed to the Associated Press that the hostages have been released, but did not immediately provide additional details. We glorify God for answered prayers. The remaining 12 hostages are free. Christian Aid Ministries said in a statement, "Join us in praising God that all 17 of our beloved ones are now safe." The Ohio-based group said it hopes to provide more information later. "We're feeling great," said Ron North, minister at the Hart Dankirk Brethren Church in Hart, Michigan, whose members included some of the hostages. Carlson Holtz, a member of the Hart congregation, said church members received a text Thursday morning from someone connected to the situation that all of the hostages have been released. A mother and 4 of her children who belong to the church were among the hostages. Horst, who is friends with the family, said the church is rejoicing. He's elated that that portion of things is finally over. Just praise the Lord for that. The missionaries were kidnapped by the 400 Maozu gang on October 16. There were 5 children in the group of the 16 U.S. citizens and 1 Canadian, including an 8-month-old. Their Haitian driver also was abducted, according to the local human rights organization. 2 of the hostages were released in November and 3 more earlier this month. They were not identified, but members of the Hart congregation told local media in Michigan that 2 were from Hart. In addition to Michigan, the hostages are from Wisconsin, Ohio, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Oregon, and Ontario, Canada, according to the missionary group. Today is the day we have been hoping for, praying for, and working so hard to achieve, said Congressman Bill Huenza, whose Western Michigan congressional district includes Hart. "I want to thank the members of the hostage negotiation team for their diligence in securing a safe release of all hostages. This is a great day for the families in Michigan and across the nation who have been worried about safety of their loved ones," Huenza said. The leaders of the 400 Maozu gang had threatened to kill the hostages unless his demands were met. Authorities have said that the gang was demanding $1 million per person, although it wasn't clear if that included the children. It remains unclear Thursday whether any ransom was paid or what effects led to the hostages' freedom. And now for Story 11. Spiraling infections in Britain, driven in part by the new Omicron variant of the coronavirus, rattled many in Europe on Thursday, fueling a familiar dread that tightening restrictions will scuttle holiday plans again this year. Much remains unknown about Omicron, but increasingly officials are warning that the very least it appears more transmittable than the Delta variant, which has already put pressure on hospitals from the United States to the Netherlands. With so many questions, outstanding uncertainty reign over how quickly and how severely to crack down on Christmas travel and end-of-year parties. After the UK recorded the highest number of confirmed new COVID-19 infections since the pandemic began, France announced Thursday that it would tighten entry rules for those coming from Britain. Globally, more than 75 countries have reported confirmed cases of the new variant. In Britain, where Omicron cases are doubling every 2 to 3 days, the variant is expected to soon replace Delta as the dominant strain in the country. And the government has accelerated its boosters programs in response. Authorities in the 27 nations European Union says Omicron will be the dominant variant in the bloc by mid-January. In addition to hints that it's more contagious, early data suggests Omicron may be milder but better at evading vaccines, making booster shots more crucial. As experts have urged caution, in particular on growing conclusions about how mild it is because of hospitalization lags behind infections, and so many variables contribute to how sick people get. Also, even if Omicron proves milder on the whole than Delta, it may disarm some of the life-saving tools available and put immune compromises and elderly people at particular risk. If it is more transmittable, more infections overall raise the risk that more cases will be serious. And now for story 12. New witness account alleges that thousands of ethnic Tigrayans have been forcibly expelled, detained, or killed in one of the most accessible areas of Ethiopia year-long war in the latest waves of abuses carried out with machete, guns, and knives. Following a report by the Associated Press early last month citing people who have fled, Thursday's joint statement by Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International is based on interviews with more than 30 witnesses and relatives. It comes ahead of the UN Human Rights Council session Friday on Ethiopia, whose government objects to what is considered meddling by the West over the war that has killed tens of thousands of people. They say they will not be responsible of any beating or killing that would happen to us if we fail to go. One witness told the AP late last month, saying that even people who are part Tigrayan, like him, are targeted. Like others, he spoke on conditions of anonymity for fear of retaliation. I cannot escape anywhere, he said, noting that many checkpoints surrounding the western Tigray region. There is no way out of this trap. Ethnic Tigrayans have been treated throughout the conflict as Ethiopians and allied forces battle the Tigray fighters who long dominated the national government before Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed took office 3 years ago. Some of the worst abuses have been reported in the western Tigray region, which has been occupied by authorities and fighters from the neighboring Amhara region and soldiers from neighboring Eritrea. The latest alleged abuses appear to be linked to the Tigray forces' recent momentum, which Ethiopia's government asserts has been blunted after the Prime Minister's a Nobel Peace Prize winner and former soldier went to the battlefront himself. Witnesses told the AP that authorities in the western Tigray warned in public meeting against supporting the Tigray fighters, who themselves have been accused of growing numbers of abuses in the war. The new joint statement by Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International say Amhara security forces are responsible for the latest waves of expulsions, detentions, and killings. And it warns that the Tigrayans in detentions are at grave risk. It says security forces systematically rounds up Tigrayans in the communities of Humara, Adabe, and Wayan, separating families and expelling women and children. And now, a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. And now, the story at this time. Story 13. The seats in Germany's parliament will have to be rearranged after lawmakers on Thursday backed the wish of one party in a new coalition government not to sit next to the far-right alternative for Germany. The seats in Germany's lower house, or Bundestag, are arranged in a semicircle, with the left party on one end and the Alternative for Germany, or AfD, at the other. AfD first won seats in 2017, but before then, the pro-businesses Free Democrats had occupied the edge of the semicircle when they were represented in Parliament, the Free Democrats, who, along with the center-left Social Democrats of the Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the environmentalist Greens, are part of a new government that took office last week, said earlier this year that they didn't want to sit next to the AfD's lawmakers anymore. Marco Buschmann, then a senior Free Democrat lawmaker and now Germany's justice minister, said in October that his was a party of political center, and so we would like to sit in the center. On stage on Thursday backed a motion under which the Free Democrats will swap places with the center-right Union bloc of former Chancellor Angela Merkel, which is now in opposition. The three governing parties and the left party, the smallest of the three opposition parties, backed the change. The Free Democrats will now sit next to the Greens, one of their governing partners. The union had opposed the change, arguing that the Free Democrats should respect the 7-decade-old seating order in the lower house. After every election, the row of seats in the Bundestag are rearranged to reflect the strength of the various parties in the newly elected parliament. It wasn't immediately clear when the workers will get started on the latest rearrangements. And now, story 14. The Bank of England raised interest rates in the United Kingdom on Thursday to combat surging consumer prices, becoming the first central bank among the world's leading economies to do so since the coronavirus pandemic began. The increase of the bank remains the rate of 0.25% from the record low of 0.1%, was surprised given the rapid spread of the Omicron variant of the coronavirus across the country, which is already hurting many businesses, particularly those in the hospitality sector. The chief medical officer urged people to limit socializing over the holidays as the UK on Wednesday reported the highest number of confirmed new COVID-19 infections since the pandemic began. British restaurants and pubs demanded government help, but with the consumer prices inflation running at 5.1%, more than doubled the bank target of 2%, the vast majority on the bank's rate settings monetary policy committee decided actions was needed now. For many households struggling with rising prices, it's likely to be another hit to their incomes, at least in the short term, with mortgages and loans set to increase too. The Bank of England's decision comes as a day after the U.S. Federal Reserve announced it would speed up its tightening of credits as inflation reached a 40-year high in November. In contrast, the European Central Bank took a cautious approach on phasing out its pandemic stimulus as it also met Thursday. Minutes of the Bank of England's decision showed that the 8 of the 9 members of the rate-setting panel backed the increase in an attempt to keep a lid on inflation, which bank staff think could peak at around 6% in April as a result of a delayed impact on energy bill given the spike in the wholesale gas prices. The majority also said recent economic developments eased concerns over the impact on employment from the ending of the government salary subsidy program in September. The labor market is tight and has continued to tighten. There are some signs of greater persistence in the domestic cost and prices pressures, the majority said. Although the Omicron variant is likely to weigh in on near-term activity, its impacts on medium-term inflationary pressures is unclear at this stage. Economists say that the decision underlined the extent to which policymakers are worried about inflation, even before knowing the full extent of the hit to growth stemming from Omicron. Instead of battening down the hatches and waiting for the latest COVID storm to subside, they are taking action now to prevent an even sharper spiraling upward of prices, said Susanna Streeter, Senior Investment and Market Analyst at the stockbrokers of Hargreaves Lansdowne. And now, our story 15. An independent, unofficial body set up by the prominent British barrister to assess evidence in China's alleged rights abuses against the Uyghur people concluded Thursday that the Chinese government committed genocide and crimes against humanity. The Uyghur Tribunal, made up of lawyers, academics, and business people, doesn't have any government backing or power to sanction or punish China. But organizers hope the process of the publicly laid out evidence will compel international actions to tackle Beijing policies against the Uyghur, a largely Muslim ethnic group. The tribunal chair, Jeffrey Nice, said the genocide ruling has based on evidence that the Chinese government forced birth control and sterilization policies targeting the Uyghurs in the far western Xinjiang province, where intended to destroy a significant part of a group population. The abuse was part of a comprehensive policies directly linked to President Xi Jinping and the highest level of the Chinese government, he said. Nice, a senior lawyer, previously led the prosecution of ex-Siberian President Slobodan Milosevic, and he and has worked with the International Criminal Court. There has to be an intention to destroy by the act of interfering with birth a group, he said. The evidence was that significant proportions of Uyghurs who would have been born will not be born. The Chinese embassy in London condemned the tribunal as a political tool used by the few anti-China's and separatist elements to deceive and mislead the public. The embassy also said in a statement that the policies in Xinjiang were aimed at fighting terrorism and preventing radicalization. The tribunal and its so-called conclusions are mere clumsy shows staged by anti-China elements for their self-entertainment. Anyone with conscience and reason will not be deceived or fooled, the embassy said. About 30 witnesses and experts gave evidence to the series of public hearings in central London earlier this year alleging torture, forced abortions, rape, and beatings by authorities while in state detention centers. The hearing also reviewed large amounts of documents detailing other policies, including the separation of young children from their families and widespread destructions of mosques. The tribunal concluded that it was beyond a doubt that the crimes against humanity were committed. Nye says she and other senior officials bear primarily responsibility for what has occurred in Xinjiang. This vast apparatus of state repression could not exist if a plan was not authorized at the highest levels, he said. And now for story 16. A summit of European Union leaders on Thursday is trying to coordinate actions to tackle the surge of coronavirus infections across the continent and the emergence of the new Omicron variant while keeping borders open. With the festive season looming and the bloc leaders want to avoid a confusing mixture of rules and to ensure all 27 member states are on the same page and that the COVID-19 certificates continue to guarantee unrestricted travels. But alarming rises in the infection have prompted many European governments to implement public health measures and new restrictions in recent weeks. France will restrict arrivals from Britain because of fast-spreading Omicron cases, putting limits on reasons for traveling and requiring 48-hour isolation upon arrival. The new measures will take effect first thing Saturday. The European Council, which brings together the EU leaders to set a bloc political agenda, said that before the talks in Brussels that any restrictions should not undermine the functioning of a single market or hamper travels between EU member states and to Europe. Leaders will discuss a rollout of vaccines and the need to deploy booster doses to counter the spread of Omicron. The one answer to the Omicron right now is the acceleration of our vaccination program, with a particular emphasis on the booster shots. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis said. In Greece, we are one of the first European countries to open booster shots to the entire population. Mitsotakis said additional restrictive measures like extra testings for visitors should only apply during the Christmas period in order for us to gain additional time to boost as many people as possible. It's a battle against time. And this was in the daily local news update of Millennium News 24/7. Log in to get the latest news. All of our social networking sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is Millennium News 24. Also, our YouTube channel is News Channel M24. Viewers now both networking broadcasting Androids and iOS devices, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, also all smart TV platforms. Please enjoy our entertainment and latest news and views. Our Millennium News TV app, Millennium TV USA Android, and Millennium News Google, www.millenniumtv24.com. Stay tuned with Millennium News 24, and thank you for watching.